Picture this. The year is 48 of the Common Era. You are a guard stationed outside the Imperial Palace on the Palatine Hill. It is midnight. You have just watched the Empress of Rome, the most powerful woman in the known world, slip out through a servant's entrance wearing a blonde wig and a common prostitute's stola. You cannot move. You cannot speak. If you report this, you are dead. If you do not report this, you are dead. Around you, 3 other guards stand frozen. Everyone pretends they saw nothing. This is not the first time. This is not the first time. It will not be the last. The Empress is heading to the Sabura district, to a brothel. And what she is about to do there is not just scandal, it is something far more calculated. Her name is Valeria Messalina. She is 24 years old. She is married to Emperor Claudius, the most powerful man on earth. She is the mother of Britannicus, heir to the Roman throne. And according to the historian Pliny the Elder, she is about to compete against Rome's most successful prostitute in a contest that will last until dawn. Here is what makes this especially disturbing. This was not secret. This was not hidden. Rome's elite knew. Senators knew. The Praetorian Guard knew. And nobody could stop her. If you believe that the documented records of history's most terrifying figures must be remembered, consider liking this video and subscribing. Your support unearths more accounts from the darkest corners of the human story. What I am about to show you is not mythology. Every detail comes from contemporary Roman historians: Tacitus, Suetonius, Cassius Dio, Pliny the Elder, Juvenal. Men who lived during or immediately after Messalina's reigns, men who had access to imperial records, Senate archives, and eyewitness testimony. The question is not whether this happened. The documentation is too specific, too consistent across hostile and friendly sources alike. The question is why? What kind of mind creates a system like this? And what does it tell us about power when nobody can stop you? Let's start with what we know for certain. The historical record is brutally explicit. The year is 40 of the Common Era. Messalina is 16 years old when she marries Claudius. He is 50. He walks with a limp. He stutters. He drools slightly when he speaks. The entire Roman aristocracy has mocked him his entire life as mentally deficient. Then his nephew Caligula is assassinated. The Praetorian Guard finds Claudius hiding behind a curtain in the palace. They make him emperor because they need someone they can control. Suddenly, the stuttering, limping scholar is the most powerful man on earth, and his teenage wife becomes the most powerful woman in Rome. Think about what this means. Messalina goes from minor patrician girl to Empress of Rome literally overnight. She is 16 years old. She has no training, no preparation, no guidance. But she has something else. She has a husband who everyone assumes is weak. She has access to absolute power with no oversight. She has the protection of the imperial title with none of the checks that controlled previous empresses. For the first 2 years, she plays the role. Dutiful wife, devoted mother figure. She gives birth to Britannicus. The succession is secure. Claudius adores her. Behind closed doors, she is building something else. A system, a machine, a network of power that uses the only resource she has in unlimited supply: her body and the terror of refusing her. Here is where the historical documentation becomes very specific and very disturbing. The historian Tacitus records the first incident that reaches the Senate's attention. The year is 42 of the Common Era. Messalina is 18 years old. A Roman senator named Gaius Appius Silanus arrives at the palace for a private audience. He is a distinguished military commander, respected, powerful in his own right, and married. Messalina summons him to her private quarters. She makes her interest clear. He refuses politely, respectfully. He is married. She is the empress. This is impossible. 3 days later, Claudius suddenly accuses Silenus of plotting assassination. The charge is treason. The evidence is a dream that Messalina claimed to have. In the dream, Silenus attacked Claudius. That is the evidence. A dream. Silenus is executed the same day. Think about the message this sends. An empress propositions you. You refuse. You die. Not in secret, not quietly, but publicly. With imperial authority. This was not passion. This was not scandal. This was demonstration. Here is what the Senate realizes in that moment. Refusal is not an option. Silence is not protection. The normal rules, marriage vows, social propriety, political alliances, none of it matters. She can do whatever she wants, and the emperor will believe her. But here is what makes Messalina different from other abusers of power. She does not just want access. She does not just want compliance. She wants something else entirely. She wants to prove she is better at it than anyone. She wants to compete. She wants to win. And that is when the brothel visits begin. The historical record here comes primarily from 3 sources. Pliny the Elder's Natural History, Juvenal's Satires, and Tacitus's Annals all independently describe the same pattern. Messalina would disguise herself as a common prostitute, wearing a blonde wig, heavy makeup, the clothing of a lupe, literally she-wolf, Roman slang for prostitute. She would take the name Lysiska and go to a specific brothel in the Suburra district, a place called the Fornix, literally archway, where prostitutes serviced clients in alcoves beneath arches. And she would work there, taking clients all night until dawn. Pliny the Elder records the specific detail that still shocks historians. In one documented night, Messalina serviced 25 men. The brothel's most successful prostitute that night serviced 24. Messalina won. Read that again. The Empress of Rome kept count. This was a competition, with documented numbers, with a winner and a loser. Here's what haunts me about this detail. The counting, the documentation, the fact that we know the number. Someone was keeping score. Someone was tracking. This wasn't random behavior. This wasn't loss of control. This was systematic, organized, purposeful. Think about what this tells us. Messalina wasn't losing herself to compulsion. She was asserting dominance through the only arena where her imperial power couldn't simply command victory. She had to earn it. She had to prove she was better, and the historical record says she was. If this moment in history doesn't move you to learn more, you might be missing the lesson our ancestors died to teach. But here's where the system becomes even more calculated. The brothel visits weren't the only pattern. They were just the most documented, the most shocking, the most talked about. Tacitus and Suetonius both record a different practice, one that reveals the true mechanics of her power. Messalina would identify wives of powerful senators, noble women, married women from Rome's oldest families, women whose husbands controlled legions, provinces, grain supplies. She would summon them to the palace, private audiences, and she would seduce them, not force, seduce, with attention, with the glamour of imperial favor. Then she would arrange for their husbands to walk in on them, together. Think about the psychology of this. In Roman society, a wife's adultery was not just personal betrayal. It was legal grounds for execution. It destroyed family honor going back centuries. It annihilated political alliances, and Messalina made sure the husband saw it. But here is the trap. The other person in the room is the Empress of Rome. You cannot accuse her. You cannot prosecute her. You cannot even speak about it publicly without committing treason. Your wife is destroyed. Your honor is destroyed. Your family name is destroyed. And you cannot do anything about it, except remember who did it, and obey her absolutely, forever. This is the genius of the system. She is not just satisfying desires. She is creating leverage, human leverage, A network of powerful men whose wives she has compromised. Men who owe her silence. Men who fear her exposure. The Senate becomes a room full of men who cannot look each other in the eye, because they do not know who else is compromised, who else is trapped. Suetonius records that by 47 of the Common Era, 7 years into Claudius's reign, Messalina essentially controlled imperial policy. Claudius signed what she told him to sign, appointed who she told him to appoint, executed who she told him to execute. The documented death count of senators and noblemen killed on her orders reaches 35. Some historians argue the real number was much higher. Each execution followed the same pattern. The man refused her, or his wife refused her, or he had something she wanted and would not give it. Then came the accusation. Then came Claudius's belief. Then came the execution. But here's what makes this especially sinister. Messalina did not stop at creating a system. She refined it, expanded it, made it institutional. She established what Roman historians called the matrimonium, literally marriage ceremony, but not marriage to Claudius. Marriage to men she chose, while still empress, while still married to the emperor. Tacitus records the most shocking example. The year is 48 of the Common Era. Messalina is 24 years old. She has been empress for 8 years old. She becomes infatuated with Gaius Silius. He is young, aristocratic, handsome, and married. She does not just seduce him, she marries him. In a public ceremony, with witnesses, with priests, with legal documentation. While Claudius is away from Rome overseeing harbor construction at Ostia, his wife marries another man, in public, with senatorial witnesses. Think about what this means. This is not hiding. This is not secret. This is open defiance of imperial authority. This is announcing that the rules do not apply to her. And for 8 days, nobody stops her. The Senate does not intervene. The Praetorian Guard does not intervene. Rome's most powerful men watch the empress marry someone else and do nothing, because they are terrified. Because the pattern is established. Oppose Messalina, you die. But here is what she does not expect. Claudius has a freedman, a former slave named Narcissus, smart, loyal, and not compromised by Messalina's system, because he is not an aristocrat. His wife is not vulnerable. His family name is not on the line. Narcissus understands that if Messalina succeeds in replacing Claudius with Silius, everyone in the current administration, including him, is dead. So he does something nobody else has dared to do in 8 years. He tells Claudius the truth. He brings witnesses. He brings documentation. He brings slaves from the wedding ceremony who can testify. And Claudius, the man everyone thought was too weak to control his wife, finally understands what his empress has built. Tacitus records Claudius's reaction. First, disbelief, then shock, then something the historian describes as terror, not of Messalina, of what she represents, of how close she came to replacing him, of how completely she had corrupted his reign. Within 24 hours, Messalina is dead, executed by the Praetorian Guard. She is given the option of suicide. She cannot do it. She has spent 8 years believing herself untouchable. She cannot conceive of her own death. A guard runs her through with a sword in the gardens of Lucullus. She dies at 24 years old. Claudius issues a formal order. Her name is to be erased from all public inscriptions. Her statues are to be torn down. All official mention of her is to be removed from imperial records. Damnatio memoria. Damnation of memory. The Romans believed you died twice. Once when your body died, once when people stopped saying your name. Claudius wants her erased from history. He wants her forgotten. But here's the thing about documentation. Here's the thing about bureaucracy. You can order memory erased, but the accounting remains. The Senate records remain. The historians remain, the witnesses remain, and they write it down. Every specific documented detail, the brothel visits, the competitions, the 25 clients in one night, the destroyed families, the executed senators, the public wedding. They write it down because they need future generations to understand what happens when absolute power meets zero accountability. Here is what should truly disturb you. Messalina was not crazy. She was not out of control. She built and maintained a sophisticated system of power for 8 years. She manipulated the emperor. She controlled the Senate. She created leverage networks that modern political scientists recognize as sophisticated power structures. She was rational, calculating, strategic. The horror is not that she was mad. The horror is that she was sane. And it worked. For 8 years, it worked. Think about what this tells us about power, about what happens when someone has authority without oversight, when refusal means death, when exposure means execution. The system she built did not die with her. The blueprint remained. The tactics remained. Future empresses and emperors studied what she did, how she did it, how far she got. Agrippina, Claudius's next wife, would use Messalina's playbook to put her son Nero on the throne. Nero would use similar tactics of sexual humiliation as political control. The pattern repeats. Stand in the ruins of the Palatine Hill today. Walk through the remains of the Imperial Palace. You can see the private quarters where she summoned senators' wives. You can see the servants' entrance where guards watched her leave for the Suburra. The stones remember what Claudius tried to erase. Here is what haunts me most about Messalina's story. The historians who recorded it were not trying to titillate. They were trying to warn. Tacitus, Suetonius, Pliny. They documented these specific shocking details because they needed future readers to understand the danger. Not the danger of sexual excess. The danger of unchecked power. The danger of a system where one person can destroy lives without consequence. Where fear replaces law. Where nobody can say no. Messalina's body count was 35 documented executions. But the real count includes every senator who lived in terror. Every wife who was compromised. Every family whose honor was destroyed. Every guard who watched her leave and knew speaking meant death. The system killed hundreds through fear. And nobody could stop it until someone who had nothing to lose told the truth. That's the lesson. Not that Messalina was uniquely evil, but that power without accountability creates monsters. And the monsters don't look like monsters. They look like empresses. They look legitimate. They have legal authority. Until someone finally says the truth out loud. If this exposed something you've never heard before, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we are going to keep uncovering the history they tried to erase. Drop a comment with your thoughts and I will see you in the next investigation. The question I want you to sit with tonight: if Messalina's system worked for 8 years in the most powerful empire on earth, what systems like it are working right now? Where power is absolute, where refusal is fatal, where truth is treason. History does not repeat itself, but power finds the same patterns over and over until someone breaks them. Messalina died at 24, forgotten by imperial decree, remembered by historians who understood that the most dangerous stories are the ones someone tried to erase. The documentation survived. The truth survived. And now you know what Rome's most powerful woman did when she believed nobody could stop her. She proved them right. For 8 years, until someone finally did.